Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi there.
Look who's here. All right, it's Thursday night, and we're so happy to see everybody. How are you, Dave
I am
Johnson?
terrific. Yeah. It's the seasons are changing. You notice my skin has become again translucent white because I'm not getting tan every single day as I do in
Oh,
the summer.
yeah. So, what is it? So now it's your fall. You're moving into fall.
Yeah, it's just the beginning of fall, and it's surprising how cold it gets. It gets
Yeah.
pretty cold. It's more extreme weather. It gets
Hmm.
really and colder than San Francisco. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Not as cold as Colorado or Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I know we had a snowstorm here in New Mexico like 2 weeks ago, and now it's about 75. You know,
Yeah,
so
rub
crazy.
it in, man. Just rub it in. I slept with the heater on all night last night.
Oh, yeah.
And my portable heater, because they don't have central heating for the most part here. And
Oh,
it'll have
really?
no nothing. No cooling, no heating, nothing. It's up
Wow.
to you to buy a
Oh,
fan. Actually, most summers you just go to the beach. It's common on Christmas in Australia to go to the beach
oh, fantastic.
because your house is so incredibly hot and humid that you cannot stay in it.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very
could be
cool.
worse.
All right. So you went away. You were camping last week.
I
People,
was,
yeah.
yeah,
What
yeah.
happened? How was it? What'd you do?
Well, I do this sort of shamanic thing where I gotta get out of the city. I gotta be alone in nature and just meditate most of the time. I meditate. I try to walk a lot and get some exercise, and I try to eat, as healthily as possible. It's just sort of like a clear out and without any noise or distractions. And I try to do that once a year. This year, I did the first time, and it was really just sad and depressing. It was like I spent a week and all I did was get like a bunch of sadness. I was very non-functional. So it's like I got to do this again. I just make that point because there's a lot of idea in the spiritual world that if you're doing spiritual things, you should be completely happy the whole time, and it should be rainbows and love. And
Yes.
sometimes in this work, we encounter unpleasant things like, wow, there is sadness in the universe. I feel bad, and I need to feel bad for a couple of days here before I can move on to my next stuff. So it did work out the second time really, really well. I got the answers that I wanted. I think you can see my drum here. I bring my drum and all my crystals and stuff. I didn't bring crystals this time because it was the eclipse and a certain person recommended that I not do so. So I left it right up there on my shelf.
Yeah.
But the everything sort of came together. When I do shamanic work, I usually go in with a question. And I got
Mhm.
my answers. It was really quiet, beautiful. I mean, one thing, if you come to Australia, just spend a couple times in the cities, but the nature is just astonishingly beautiful. And I made my campsite, I got my campsite the night beforehand. And there was one other person in the whole campsite while I was there on the ocean,
Wow.
right? So in this beautiful environment, it's just all these crazy animals. It's wonderful to go camping here because there's so few people. You can easily be alone.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, there's only 22 million people in all of Australia.
How many?
22 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's so big.
it's
How
huge. I
is it
mean,
all spread out?
yeah, it's huge. Most people do live on the beach, but if I go out, I'm not at the most popular beach. I now live at a place called Henley Beach. If I go out there in an afternoon, yesterday I went out, it was a little rainy. No one was on the beach except me. You know,
Wow.
in a city,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just very, very free and very, well, we could talk for hours about the crazy animals that just show up and you're like, what is that? I haven't even seen that on National Geographic. Does it bite? There's more than one trip where I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's an echidna. Okay.
Right. Right.
Look at that. It's like they're by your car. Like, oh, okay, hello. It's wonderful in that sense. It's a you have a little bit of a feeling in Australia like you're out in the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Awesome.
you go up,
Yeah, literally.
right. And I know Native American people, obviously, they were there first. But if you can imagine when there's so few people, that it's a very unique sort of environment. And when you're away from the cities, all that chatter, it just stops for a couple of days. It's
It's
really.
nice. It's quiet. That's
I want to say hi,
awesome.
everybody, since
Yeah,
I know.
I know. We've got 246 people here now.
Hey, good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Good to
Hi.
have you all here. All right. So I wanted to ask you about leveling up. And you kind of touched on it, I guess. Leveling up, ascending, rising, expansion. We're all doing that now. I think,
Yeah.
if you look back the last month or 2 years, there's been significant change. So my question to you is, how do you manage your response to it? I mean, maybe talk about the things that you've experienced. Like I can talk about the stuff I've experienced, but I think managing our response to it.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the shamanic stuff that I just did that week on my own is one thing that really helps because it's almost like creating a new chapter. Your ritual really helps. It really helps, in my opinion, to go to some state of meditation and say, all right, here's my question. Universe, bring me some answers. How do I level up? Because I do believe that is at hand. And I do want to point out that, when am I leveling up with this? It's not all up. There's a down, up, down, up. If anybody is out there is experiencing, you're not doing anything wrong. It is the nature of working through heavy material before you get to that next level. Be kind to yourself as you move on. Your sort of shadow stuff will come up whenever you do that. So be super kind to yourself. And, gosh, a lot of leveling up is reading other people's books. I'm just presently reading Linda G's book. It's really good. Yeah, I really recommend it to everybody. Her life story is absolutely fascinating and informative. It's really not just do I know a lot about Linda. I just and I love the way that she has been super kind to everybody in that book too. She's a wonderment. Let's just say that. But I'm also working with people who I'm reading books on people who do something like the past life regression moment in between lives. His name's Newton. And if you get a chance to read Journey of Souls, it's a wonderful story about past life regression and how this very skeptical psychologist came upon these people who were talking about their past lives. He didn't believe any of it. They were just trying to get them to stop smoking. And so read people's stuff, take in what's useful for you, obviously evaluate it. So that's one recommendation. I have to say, for me, I did have to curb a couple of bad habits. I used to have about 8 cups of coffee a day with about this much milk. So there was a point in my life where I was having 2 gallons of milk a week. Right?
What?
I once broke my arm, and the doctor said the problem is you're 2 days later, your arm is already fused together. The bones are fused together. It's like, what are you doing? I've never been. I'm like, I drink a lot of milk. He's like, okay, take it easy. So, you don't want to be fanatic. I mean, stop drinking coffee and stop drinking milk. I just got it down to a cup. Again, I don't want to push any. I don't believe in extreme behaviors. I think that it's a great idea to take a look at some of these things and, adjust them a little bit. A lot of meditation, because so much is going on. How much of the stuff that's going on is your stuff? How much of this is in relation to this stuff? how much of this is causing stuff for you to come up in this time. If you're getting really angry and really upset, that's probably justified. But there's also bringing a lot of upset from past things that have happened. And you got to work through that. For everybody, I really recommend somebody help you. So best friend, groups, books, you could just read in books, that'll be helpful. But you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to level up alone.
Yeah, very cool. Good.
What do you do? How do you do it?
Oh, well, I mean, I agree with what you said about, I think we're all seeking. It's the energy is just propelling us
Yeah.
forward to grow and seek, expand. But reading others' works, we tune into YouTube, we read, find other healers, different modalities, what it means, and I think managing your reaction to it. I mean, for me, I've gone through a real significant change in my, with my abilities. It was more understanding that my abilities were not, a delusion, that I wasn't, number one in the psychiatric hospital, that I really have gifts. When I embraced that, everything turned around for me and things opened up. But in doing so, I've found that I've had to let go of things that no longer serve me. And that has been painful. It's been beautiful, but it's been painful. Like some things are a conscious choice to let go of, and some things are just removed. It's like the 6 calls. I'm into the 6 calls, and I know some of you watching are, you do it with me, you understand. But the 6th or the 5th call of the 6 calls is I consciously state that my environment through infinity shall be reset to wholly align with 100% divine light now. And I love something like the 6 calls because it, they ride up and down the highway out there. But the 6 calls lines up your aspects, it makes you, it's a ritual that you can do to line yourself up and connect with spirit. But that 5th call, I mean, if you are doing that, and I do the 6 calls twice a day, but if I am consciously asking for my environment to be, shaped and shifting to match that vibration of 100% divine white light, well, of course, things are going to shift.
Yeah.
Things are going to move and be moved without me consciously saying, okay, you're out. Because I don't know. We don't know, right? We always don't know what is in our best interest.
Right. That's true. That's a great point. Yeah. And it might feel really bad in the beginning.
Yeah.
It might be a disaster in the beginning. And I have noticed that a lot of those disasters, and I turn to look back and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I didn't finish law school. Oh my God, what a disaster my life would have been. Although I really thought I wanted that then. I really thought I could help people then. What was I thinking? But, but yeah, it's not always like some golden path. As a matter of fact, I'd say it's rarely a golden path.
So how do we manage, those things? It's like, I work with folks and folks say, like, well, I'm doing all this now and wanting a different life for myself, taking care of myself, wanting to connect with my spirit guides. I want more of a spiritual life, but they're finding themselves more isolated, like going through a period of isolation. But I just say, that's beautiful, because you are getting ready. You are walking through the door of how beautiful it's gonna be. But
I totally agree. Yeah, I don't know if you find this, but my clients will reflect what I'm experiencing, and that is knowledge or even the issues. And every single client will show up. I mean, I think I have a real advantage here because it's like, got an issue before me. And then my client will show up and they will have the exact same issue. Or I really want to learn something. And I'll have this client that knows it all. And it's just often that I'm like, who's the client here? Who's being healed as I'm doing this work? And it's like, it actually really does push me along the way on a very daily basis. It's like universe knows exactly what I need to talk about every day. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty lovely.
I was going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Sasquatch.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen. So, among other things, I want the details, but I also want to know, can people learn to see him or her?
Oh, yes. Yes, you can. So the whole thing about Sasquatch is they're an ET being, right? And 15th to the 25th dimension. Let me get my rocks.
Okay.
When I go camping, my car, when I get back to my car, I get rocks. And they'll be left on my pillow in my tent, or in the front, in front of the door of my tent. I've been given braided flowers. Those haven't lasted, but these are the rocks that have been left on my pillow or on my sleeping bag.
You mean you didn't leave them? You just found them?
I found them when I get back to my campsite. These are, so I have a whole bowl of my squatchy rocks, I call them. This is really cool. This is wood. This is a piece of petrified wood.
Wow.
Yeah. This does not grow in Washington State. This does not form. This is honey calcite. This is down here in New Mexico, all the way down into Mexico or the Baja, places in Pakistan, you'll find this. Not in Washington State. This is honey calcite. And this was left on my pillow.
Wow.
Up in Washington, up outside of Seattle. This is opal dendrite. This is what a lot of Mexico is made of. If you go down the Baja, the whole island, what is it? Espirito de Santi. That's what the whole island is made of. This is opal dendrite. And this piece, this was left on my sleeping bag. This is quartz. This is a river rock. And this was found all the way up. I was backpacking up by Mount Rainier, actually. We were. This rock would not be found there. This would be thousands of feet down.
Right.
Yeah, here's another one. So I have all kinds of these, you guys. But anyway, so Sasquatch. Oh, and agates. I love this one. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful?
That's stunning. Wow.
Cool?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very smooth. It was almost like it was tumbled. I was like, wow, this is just gorgeous. So anyway, but those were left. And then I have two big pieces of quartz downstairs that were left by my car door that they're found down at the river. And I was way up the mountain, hours up on Mount Rainier. So
fantastic.
But yeah, Sasquatch is an ET, 15th to 25th dimension. So they operate, you guys. They can be standing here in the room right next to me, but I won't see them. They are not just found out in the woods, but that's where we see them. That is where they live. They are here as guardians of the planet, of nature. So we have to understand as humans, we don't evolve, single cell organisms to fish to monkeys to birds, or birds to monkeys. We don't do that. We don't evolve that way. We are seeded here. It's like we are created in a lab. And then when Earth could sustain life, then we were brought here.
Mm.
Sasquatch has that job of overseeing humanity. They're part of monitoring our consciousness.
Mhm.
So, how you can, they know your intention, the Sasquatch energy. If a Sasquatch is out in the forest, they know your intention, they know your heart, they
Mm.
they can read your heart. Um, so um, when you go to the forest, you say, I am here to honor you and earth. And what that means in like Sasquatch language is that we are equal. So by going out and saying that, and also believing, if you believe in Sasquatch, they will know it. And then you can begin to build that relationship where you can see Sasquatch. It's not easy to do if you're living like in downtown Seattle or downtown LA, right? You have to kind of start by going out to where they are. Um,
Mhm.
and begin that. But once you do, you can be anywhere and tap into the Sasquatch energy. The first thing, though, is to believe. Some people, they know, Sasquatch knows if you, in the back of your mind, are just a little bit skeptical, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
know. So that is how you begin that process.
Mhm. When you were out in the woods and you had your first encounter, were
Yes.
you like kind of, oh yeah, maybe there's a Sasquatch out there, or do you think you were just an innocent?
I was an innocent because I was 4. You know,
Right.
I was backpacking with my family, and we were with another family, so there was 8 of us. And we're up on the coast, up in the Olympic Forest, up in Washington State, and so we're out on the ocean and going up to Nia Bay, and I looked up in the trees and I saw 2 juvenile Sasquatch, and I turned around and said to my dad, "You didn't tell me there were monkeys up here. You didn't tell me there were monkeys in the trees," because that's what they looked like to me. Then, and I kept turning around saying, like, "Don't you see them? Don't you see them?" I was pointing and they were like, "No." And, but I was always doing stuff like that. With my dad, right? And he got irritated. So it shut me down, and then I don't know what I was doing, but then I got separated from the group because I was trying to tie my socks back up. So I was behind the group, and I looked up, and there were the 2 juvenile Sasquatch with it was their mother, and I was all excited. I wasn't scared. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can play," because they were smiling at me. And
Uh-huh.
but the mother looked different. She looked more humanoid, and she's what they call an ancient one. And her kids are Sasquatch. They took off after their dad.
Wow.
Um, but now, so the mother comes to me. That's Rosie. She is the healer. I use her when I do my healings, like I had one today. And I use her in my healing sessions or
Mhm.
the twins. So I had a reading done with Gail Fowler, the urban shaman. And I wanted to, just kind of understand what happened to me as a kid. And she proceeded to tell me Samuel's birth, my son's birth, because it
Wow.
went on for a couple days. It was kind of gnarly. Nobody would know that. But she was channeling, the twins were there in spirit. They're my guides. So when I do readings and things, I call on them and they're here. The twins are here and Rosie comes in and she's a healer. So
Do you know how Rosie heals?
just it's energy. It's
Mhm.
all energy. Energy. The Sasquatch energy is this golden, it's it's absolutely being connected in like the DNA of the universe, Dave. Like
Mhm.
uh you know, Andromedans do that, that sixth dimensional God force where they Andromedans, or of the sixth dimension, we should say beings in the sixth dimension, they have this real connection with all that is, right? They feel it, and it's really difficult for them to come to Earth or to the third dimension, any third dimension. It doesn't matter if it's here on Earth or it's any other third dimension, because in the third dimension, we experience emotion and we're pretty isolated in order to have that experience.
Mhm.
So star seeds that are six dimensional like that feel a real disconnect, Andromedans do. And the energy is really ripe for that right now. The Andromedan star seedlets are just really disconnected.
Hmm.
Really. I don't know, I went down a rabbit hole. So
Okay. So
you
really, I asked the question I wanted to know.
okay.
That's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
there was another question you were going to ask me. You can't remember what it was.
Oh, trans channeling.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. What did you want to know about it?
Okay, tell me, what is trans channeling? Everybody wants to know what trans channeling is.
Okay, good. So, if you've seen in my work before, especially when I'm doing political stuff, I kind of get an image and then I interpret what that means. I've noticed that, the image is never wrong. Sometimes my interpretation is wrong. Sometimes I'm 6 months in advance in my interpretation or 6 months behind or something. But that's like an image translation. With trans channeling, it is a very much more like I am incorporating, well, this is what it's like for me. Meditate for a while, put all my stuff into the earth because I really do a pyramid where you know, I'm in the pyramid and it's crystal and it's pointing downwards, and I put all my extra stuff in there, like anything annoying, into Mother Earth. So I do really want to be attached to the earth, right? There's a sort of an idea that people have, like you're supposed to leave your body and go out there and meet spirit. This is a bad idea. Okay, you're supposed to bring spirit here because you have to be in control. You're the human, right? You do have to pick and choose and be in control. So I put all my stuff in there and kind of energize so that I am attached. I have another pyramid, which is sort of about love, which you can see in my videos. And then I spend a couple of minutes, it's like meditating. It really helps when I work with this group, right? Because I work with a group called is a collective group on my other channel called the Cosmic Connectors Collective. And it helps with other people because you just have a sense of like people are going to take care of you, make sure everything's all right. And it's more about that feeling. It's rare that anything negative would happen, but the protections are important. Whether you do it on your own or with other people, protection is important because there's some energies out there you just don't want to channel. I don't think they're evil, they're just kind of busy bodies and distractions. So if I'm working on my own, I'll just meditate and I kind of have a visualization. This just happened to me where it's like I'm going upstairs, and then usually there's like kind of a platform, and it's like my body is sort of adjusting, and then there's this platform here where I kind of just wait for everything to catch up, and then I go up another set of stairs, and then I start to have sort of a feeling of someone out there, and or something. I was quite skeptical of UFOs, or at least I should say I was open minded, but I never experienced that. But doing the trans channeling, immediately the characters, sometimes it's Mary, sometimes it's another planetary creature. It is And then there's this sort of recognition, okay, who are you? And I will always ask this, and I think this is really important for channelers, make sure you feel good about that energy. You know, we've spent a lot of time studying math, and in school we learned all those, you know, masculine things. No one taught us in school how to use our intuition, right? I think it's a complete mistake, and I think the next 1,000 years we're going to start having schools where people learn how to manifest and things like that. I hope there will be, but women are really much better at this because they know how their heart is. They'll just be like, oh yeah, I don't like that, move on. Do that. If you ever do this and the energy isn't good, I will always ask the energy spirit to show me something that lets me know they come from the light. And I ask that because darkness, shadow can't fake it. They don't know what love looks like. So they will always, the only thing that can show you something that I like, that I feel in my heart is good, is if it is a good thing. So an example of this will be Donald Trump, when he says a joke, it always puts someone down, right? It's never a joke that everybody's just laughing equally together. You could make a joke like that. Viewers could make a joke like that because we know what love looks like, right? But Trump can't. And I'll just tell you, a lot of people out there, if you feel like people hate you on sight, it's because they hate your ability to make a joke that includes everybody. They don't know how to do that, right? And you do. Anyway, I'll do this. I'll see an image of something. I'll feel good about it. And then I'm like, okay, let's just merge these energies. And it's like, you do still want to be in control, but it's almost like I become a stagehand. And it's like, I can still lower the curtains. If there's an emergency, I can still stop it. But I'm sort of there. And it really will be like a force is, I would say, literally in my body. And I start speaking and my mouth moves and I don't know, I don't entirely understand what I am saying. It's beyond my understanding. So sometimes it'll come and refer to my experiences, but it'll be way beyond my knowledge, you know, and maybe it'll give examples from my life. But it's like one time I got to Jesus and he made it clear, you know, no one's ever judged. You know, after your life, nobody sits there and goes, bad, good, bad, good. You might do that for your own life and say, you know, I could have been better here. And you, in the end of your life, will be a harsher critic than anybody else. It won't be another person judging you. This personification of the judgy God is just us. It's just us putting it out there, the critic out there for us to be judged. It's not real. That was way beyond my comprehension when I channeled this. So I always know because it's things that I couldn't know. It's beyond what I could know. And it will usually be the case that I don't remember everything. I'll have like a vague sense or an idea of what was said. And afterwards, usually I will talk to the other people and say, you know, was it any good? I don't know if it was any good. I don't know if it was yammering on about nothing for an hour or whether it was on point. And it's really nice to do it in the group because people will ask questions. Like, okay, what about these? You know, did you get crucified? You know, were you reborn? Really got a great answer for that, which I never would have thought of, which was like, you know, just an example. People sometimes are put in the morgue and they think that they are dead, right? It happens 1 in a million times. Well, the similar thing happened with Jesus. So to them, they'd never seen that before. You know, no one had ever come back to life before. So of course it was a miracle. And we can literally say it was a miracle, right? He didn't die and come back. I would say also from that experience that I don't think Jesus is just a metaphor. I'll also say that Jesus isn't better than anybody else. The Sasquatch, the angels, the Hindu gods, they all have something to offer us. But trance channeling it's a process that you can learn. And I'll tell you, it took me a really long time to get to the point where I trusted that, where I felt safe letting something speak through my mouth. If you're hesitating there, that's totally fair, okay? It took years for me to build up to the point where I felt safe and comfortable doing
Yeah.
That anybody who's trying it really look to other channelers, and you don't have to pay them necessarily, although I do teach that. Look at how they're doing, work with other people who are channeling, make sure you trust them. It's all about the heart. That's the bottom line. Don't walk through the door unless you're like, I like it. If it's mediocre, no, you're not walking through that spirit door. You must be in control to do this work. It's not about spirit controlling you, because you're the with the body who needs to be safe. And you don't want to just channel anything that shows up. You want to channel the light. If you want to do that, you absolutely can. It does take a bit of dedication.
Yeah. Awesome. So when did you start doing the trance channeling?
Let's see. Well, I had a couple sort of magical, mystical events, and I want to answer Logic's question here, but a couple events where it was just almost like a sudden experience. It was a little bit like spirit just showed up and took over. Now, I was willing when that happened. I read a book by Dolores Cannon, Jesus and the Essenes, and it was the true story of Jesus from someone who was regressed to a past life and knew him. And that was just like, I put down the book and it was like something. It just, you can't really explain a mystical experience, but that's what it was. So that was sort of a first time where it was kind of voluntary. There was a voluntary, but it was a surprise. Since that time, I wound up working with this cosmic collective, Cosmic Connectors Collective. And there I felt safe with these people. And they very much do great introduction, and everybody's there. And I'm not the only one that channels. They're pretty experienced. So, it's like, afterwards, have a glass of water, Dave, stretch, they were all there to sort of do it very, very safely. So I think that started about a little more than a year ago. I'm deeply indebted to them and, the people who hooked me up with that. It was really, really, really remarkable. Sue, I think I can say her name because she's been on my show. Sue Coop is the one who hooked me up. I'm entirely grateful to her. And with that group, I just felt safe and comfortable doing it. And it took a couple of sessions before I was really there, but it did not take long. Once I found that group, I had been planning this years in advance. I'd been told years in advance, you're going to do that trance channeling. I was like, I don't know about that. I'm not so sure. Do I really want to do that, kind of extraordinary thing? What if I go crazy? That's fair. Okay. If you're having those fears, they should be addressed. When I teach people to channel, one thing that happened, especially in the beginning, is we'd get to the gateway where they'd go through and there would be a knight in full armor.
Oh, wow.
Are you the guide? And they go,
yeah. What
nothing.
they say?
Nothing. And I'd be like, yeah, they would say, are you the guide? Nothing. Like, why are you here? And sometimes we'd always get past the guard. We'd get to the actual channeling. And this is the client speaking, not me.
Right.
And I'd say, who was that guard? And they would always say, it's fear. People the guard is there to protect you.
Cool.
Fear is not always a bad thing. Fear is there to warn you about these things. People are right to have a guard there because you don't want to just let anything in. So, but once we kind of dealt with the guard and like lots of love and make people safe and stuff like that, soon after the guard started to not show up. He was always dressed as a knight in armor with every client from any background, always. Not funny.
Wow. That is cool.
Now, this is a really good question.
Yeah.
I got it asked, and I think I asked that question my time. I'm going to tell you, yes, this is a good point. You wonder how much is your imagination. There's a big question out there, and how much of this stuff, imagination, may be the window into spirituality. So in the beginning for you, you might be like, oh yeah, I'm having a conversation with a pretend person, something like that. And this is just a person from my imagination. It's just let's just call them my guide. I did this, and I didn't think it was outside of myself. I thought it was just two portions of me talking. And when I began to sort of do this over time, things just get confirmed. So that beginning of just sort of working with myself sort of led to something greater. I did not think I was channeling. I just thought I was doing a psychological exercise in the beginning. And but then the things started to come true. So I would get a message like, if you just say these words, you'll make the deal and pay off your student loan. And I did, and I made the deal, and I paid off my student loan, $10,000 one month. In a month, I made $10,000. Like, it was just crazy stuff. And, it was really universe going, here, there it is. You can do it.
Right.
I would say to you, you're doing the automatic writing. Don't worry too much about how much of it is an imagination. Just do it, and maybe the imagination is playing a part here. Maybe some of these images are not exactly correct. They're more symbolically correct. Mm-hmm. Write down as you are doing, and then over time, just like as if you're doing a scientific experiment, just see how much of this information has turned out to be useful and correct. And maybe it's only 50%, but that means you're going the right direction. Just keep going until it's a little bit more. You can always ask Spirit, give me a message. Like, when I'm done with my automatic writing, let me know if it's accurate. Mm-hmm. And when you do it, you get those stones. When I do it, I usually get a feather. And I had been meditating in the woods and had like a feather land in my lap. Yeah, as I thought about something, I just land in my lap. And I always do this. This is channeling. When you go into a space of meditation and you say, I've got this issue here, or I've got a question. Should I move into the apartment or sell my house? What should I do, Spirit? What's best for me? And if you really say that, or come up with the intention, it's better if it's in a ritual, and then you just listen. Within the next 24 hours, 10 people will come up and say, oh, I used to live in a house. I'm so much better off in my apartment. And then you turn on the TV and it'll be like, sell your house, move to an apartment. The universe will find a way to get that message to you. Whether you're spirit writing or not, this really works. And do that with the writing. Just say, hey, Spirit, can you confirm if this is true? And the first time you're like, well, okay, maybe it's just coincidence. But the 100th time, you'll be like, this is accurate. One other thing you might do is find somebody who would like to just experiment a little bit with you. Somebody who is like, you're like, oh, hey, you're my friend. I want to know answers about these things. I'm game. I'll give it a try. And for free, just go, okay, ask me a question and I'll try to spirit write the answer. And usually what will happen is your friend will just be like, oh my God, I can't believe how accurate that is. You won't believe yourself. Mm-hmm. And I want to show you respect for being critical. We do need to be analytical here and not just believe anything that shows up, because it could be ego, it could be culture, it could be a million things that are informing us. We do want to keep that skepticism. And you and I both know we can be wrong. So that's what I was saying.
Awesome. Yeah, when students ask me when I do a channeling class, it's, if you do that thing where you are questioning yourself, it's like, is that in my imagination, or is this really spirit? Am I hearing my spirit guide? Is this really a guide? Is this really guided information? And it's like, well, just keep doing it. Just do it over and over. But when you're doing it, pay attention to how it feels in your body. Yeah. Like, if you get an answer or you have a vision or a knowing, check in with yourself. Right. And you'll kind of use your body as a gauge, and right. You'll feel it. And then pretty soon you'll be able to, I know that tingle, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. I always would say too, if it's moving you beyond judgment, that is, there's a game that we are playing, especially at this time: good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. This culture's good, this culture's bad, this culture's, even in our, even when we're looking at our horrible political situation right now, that kind of thing is really setting up into a sort of dualistic. If you're able to go beyond that and go, well, I have sympathy for those people that I disagree with, that's why they're doing it. You can be sure that spirit. Anytime you move closer to love and acceptance of others, anytime you move closer to love and acceptance of yourself, that is spirit. Spirit might also show you, like, hey, you need to work on that.